Hello there, very good evening and welcome to the news tonight, where we get you the day's top stories from India and across the world. I'm Tracy Shilshi, and in the next 30 minutes I'll be getting you all those big stories. But first, the headlines. 5 sentenced to death in the 7/11 Mumbai blast case. 7 others are handed the life imprisonment. Second Made in India warship INS Kochi is commissioned in Mumbai. The Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar says it will ensure dominance in the Indian Ocean region. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj meets BRICS leaders at the UN, gets backing for India's UNSC bid. And protests by Madhesi community continues over Nepal's new constitution. Hundreds of trucks stranded as crisis paralyzes the cross-border trade with India. Top story, a special Makoga court today pronounced a sentence in the 2006 Mumbai serial blast case. 5 convicts have been sentenced to death, while the 7 others have been handed life imprisonment. The victims have welcomed the verdict, saying that it brought some amount of closure.
Death sentence for 5 and life imprisonment for 7. That's the sentence handed down by a special Makoga court in Mumbai. Special Judge Yatin Shinde pronounced the death sentence to Kamal Ahmed Ansari, Mohammad Faisal Sheikh, Ehtisham Siddiqui, Naveed Hussain Khan and Asif Khan. All 5 were found guilty of planting the bombs that killed 189 people.
9 वर्षों के लंबे ट्रायल के बाद आज इस केस का फाइनल जजमेंट आया है और इसमें जो 5 लोग हैं जो प्लांटर थे उनको फांसी की सजा दी गई है और बाकी लोगों को अलग-अलग सेक्शन के तहत।
मैं तो दादर से चढ़ा था और मुझे बहुत चोट लगी थी। ये तो सजा हो गई, शायद आज अभी 5 जन को सजा हो गई है। तो वो मेरे हिसाब से जिनको लगा था, चोट लगी थी, जिनके घर बर्बाद हुए, उनके लिए एक अच्छी चीज थी।
The blasts had ripped through local trains within a span of 10 minutes between Khar Road, Santa Cruz, Bandra Khar Road, Jogeshwari Mahim Junction, Mira Road, Bhayandar, Matunga Mahim Junction and Borivali. Arguments on the quantum of sentence concluded last week, with the prosecution demanding the death penalty for 8 of the 12 accused. However, the convicts claim innocence.
The evidence in this case is shoddy, to say the least. It's not fit for conviction, let alone a death sentence.
वो सुनकर मुझे बहुत तकलीफ है और मैं बहुत दिल से मैं दुखी हूँ, इसलिए कि वो सब बेगुनाह हैं। पिछले 9 सालों से मैं उनके साथ रह रहा हूँ और मैंने देखा है एटीएस ने किस तरह से मुझे फंसाया है, उनको फंसाया है और जज को और कोर्ट को मिसगाइड किया है, धोखा दिया है।
हमें ये उम्मीद है कि जब हम हाई कोर्ट पहुँचेंगे तो इंशाअल्लाह फैसला इन मुल्ज़िमीन के हक में होगा। जो असल मुल्ज़िम थे उनको पकड़ा ही नहीं गया, असल मुल्ज़िमों को, बेगुनाहों को फांस दिया गया है।
The ATS charge sheet filed in November 2006 named 30 accused. Of these, 17 are absconding, including 13 Pakistanis. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The Navy destroyer INS Kochi was commissioned at the Mumbai Naval Dockyard today. It is the largest ever warship built in India, equipped with the state-of-the-art weapons and sensors. It was designed by Navy's in-house organization and was constructed by the Mazgaon Dock Shipbuilders Limited in Mumbai.
It's made in India and is the largest and arguably the deadliest the Navy has in its fleet. INS Kochi, the second warship with multifunction surveillance and threat alert radar, was commissioned by Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar on Wednesday in Mumbai.
Its finish is as good as any foreign ship, which I think is a tremendous improvement. Let us take a oath that we will develop a real blue ocean navy, a navy which can dominate the Indian Ocean region.
Weighing 7,500 tons and with a length of 164 meters and 17 meters at the beam, the stealth-guided missile destroyer is propelled by 4 gas turbines. It can achieve speeds in excess of 30 knots. The warship has a vertical launch missile system that can take out long-distance targets on or off the shore. It's also packed with anti-submarine arsenal, including indigenous rocket launchers, indigenous twin-tube torpedo launchers and bow-mounted new-generation Hamsa sonar dome.
It is equipped with the state-of-the-art weapons and sensors, some of which have been developed by the DRDO and manufactured in the country by our public and private sector industry.
It is also equipped to operate 2 Sea King or Chetak helicopters. The ship has a complement of about 40 officers and 350 sailors. The first of this class, INS Kolkata, was already commissioned in August last year. The third warship, INS Chennai, will be inducted towards the end of 2016. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's turn our focus to the Bihar elections. And BJP President Amit Shah addressed party workers in Begusarai district today, targeting the Janata Parivar's election campaign. He said that its leaders were misleading people on the reservation issue and diverting attention from the development agenda.
बिहार चारा चोर लालू के नाम से जाना जाता है.
BJP chief Amit Shah trying to weaken the RJD's grip on OBC voters over the reservation issue, claiming that his party had always supported quotas and didn't want changes in the policy.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी वर्तमान आरक्षण व्यवस्था का समर्थन करती है और इसमें किसी भी प्रकार के पुनर्विचार की विरोधी है. आरक्षण के नाम पर बिहार की जनता को गुमराह करने के लिए प्रयास हो रहा है, जिनके पास मुद्दे नहीं है.
Shah was addressing party workers in Begusarai town on Wednesday afternoon. Taking a dig at the Janata Parivar leaders, he said only Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led government would take Bihar on the course.
बिहार की जनता को अपराध और भ्रष्टाचार चाहिए या विकास चाहिए? बताइए क्या चाहिए? विकास चाहिए तो लालू नीतीश की जोड़ी नहीं ले सकती. नरेंद्र मोदी के नेतृत्व में भारतीय जनता पार्टी ही विकास ले सकती है. ये सरकार भारतीय जनता पार्टी की बनती है तभी बिहार में विकास होगा.
Shah also praised the Prime Minister's overseas visits, claiming that Indians everywhere recognized him more than any of his predecessors.
नरेंद्र भाई ने दुनिया के अंदर भारत का सम्मान बढ़ाने का काम किया है. नरेंद्र भाई ने दुनिया में भारत को स्वीकृति दिलाने का काम किया है. और जब यूएन के प्लेटफॉर्म पर श्री नरेंद्र मोदी को, इस देश के प्रधानमंत्री को, भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नेता को हिंदी में भाषण करता हुआ सुनते हैं तो छाती गद-गद फूल जाती है.
Underscoring the political significance of the Bihar election, Shah also said the election will decide the direction of national politics. He told party workers that people opposed to the BJP's ideology will campaign against it in Bihar. The 10 districts that will go to polls in the first phase include Samastipur, Begusarai, Khagaria, Bhagalpur and Banka. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now in the national capital, in the middle of a turf war between the Delhi government and the one at the centre, Arvind Kejriwal's ambitious Chief Minister's conclave on cooperative federalism proved to be quite a damn squib. In fact, the only two chief ministers to attend that meet was Mamata Banerjee and Manik Sarkar. But all three of them were very vocal really about the opposition to the BJP-led union government's policies. Take a look.
The whole idea behind the Chief Minister's conclave was to promote cooperative federalism, thus bringing the centre and the states closer. But the attending CMs used the platform to hurl accusations at the union government. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said the BJP-led government at the centre was interfering in the functioning of states. He also said that the centre was using central agencies, governors and lieutenant governors to control them. He also demanded complete decentralization to strengthen India's federalism.
केंद्र सरकार रिबेलियन पैदा कर रही है कि कोई सरकारी अफसर अगर अपने मुख्यमंत्री की और काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स की बात मानेगा उसके खिलाफ कार्रवाई होगी. तो ये दूसरी चीज प्रॉब्लम है.
West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee also echoed Kejriwal's accusations against the centre.
चीफ मिनिस्टर का पता नहीं है. गवर्नर खुद लेटर लिखता है होम मिनिस्ट्री को कि आप सेंट्रल पुलिस फोर्स दो म्यूनिसिपैलिटी इलेक्शन में. तो ये कैसा है? क्या कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म है?
Tripura Chief Minister Manik Sarkar also showed up for the conclave, even as the CMs of Bihar, Mizoram and Puducherry sent their letters of support. Mamata Banerjee has offered to hold the next such conclave in Kolkata. Anu Devan for Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's take you through other national news updates in Nationwide. Around 100 children fell ill after consuming midday meals in Agra on Wednesday. According to reports, the children started vomiting after having milk served as part of the scheme. At least 12 kids are in severe condition. An investigation has been ordered by the district magistrate of the city. 3 infants have filed a PIL before the Supreme Court through their legal guardians, asking for urgent measures to bring down the fatal pollution level in the national capital. The plea demands a complete ban on use and sale of firecrackers, sparklers and explosives during Diwali celebrations. The Maharashtra government has slapped a 5% tax on petrol, alcohol and cigarettes to tackle the drought situation in the state. Price hike in gold and silver is also expected. Fuel hike of 2 rupees will be applicable from Thursday midnight. The decision comes after last week's Niti Aayog meet. The Income Tax Department conducted raids at the houses and offices of Tamil actors Vijay, Nayanthara and several others. Around 25 places in Chennai, 3 locations each in Thiruvananthapuram and Hyderabad were also raided. The IT department said that the raids were part of an investigation on alleged use of black money in film production. We'll have a quick break here. Up next, we're getting international news, and the battle rages over Afghanistan's Kunduz city, captured by Taliban militants, as lawmakers demand President Ashraf Ghani's resignation.
Many are saying that this election is going to be a difficult election for BJP, while some are saying that it's going to be an easy election for the Grand Alliance.
There is no Grand Alliance in Bihar.
What is going to be BJP's USP in terms of the vote bank?
Caste has been ingrained very deep in politics of Bihar.
What is BJP's strategy really going to be in areas like Kochi and Kishanganj, Eastern Bihar basically, where Owaisi is going to gaining mileage actually over there?
To move towards the minorities, but the majority also have a role in this country.
Watch To The Point with Union Minister Rajiv Pratap Rudy only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back to the news tonight. Let's get to international news. And in fact, the crisis in Nepal is severely affecting cross-border trade with India, leaving both neighbours high and dry. Running short of fuel and other food items, Nepal has now accused the Indian government of imposing an unofficial trade blockade over its new constitution. But New Delhi has denied those charges. However, the crisis is steadily putting pressure on the relation between the two nations.
Protest by the Madheshi community continues over the new Nepal constitution, and it's having an adverse impact on the people who depend largely on India for supplies.
यदि आप जबरदस्ती भेजते हैं तो यहाँ तोड़ फोड़ आगजनी भी हो सकता है, इसलिए विनम्र आप लोग से आग्रह है हम लोग का कि आप जो है हमारे आंदोलन में जो है बिथोलने का काम न करें.
With hundreds of trucks stranded, supplies of essential commodities like sugar, salt and cooking gas cylinders has been hit.
इंडिया से कुछ माल नहीं आता है, नेपाल सब ऐसे होता है. हमारे पास कुछ खाने के लिए नहीं है. काठमांडू में उधर कोई माल वाल नहीं जा रहा है.
Nepal has blamed India for choking the supplies. As a mark of protest, the government has ordered to block out Indian TV channels. The centre is likely to evaluate the situation after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's return from US on Tuesday. Leaders have sought his intervention to ease the tension. Despite Nepal's assurances, there are fears that it could turn to China for supplies, hampering trade with India.
No, we've got trade with all the countries, especially with South Asia. And with India, we have more trade because we share the large volume of trade, portion with India.
If India is appearing to create problems, and this is what the feeling in Nepal is, then there are powers waiting like China to jump into the fray immediately and fish into troubled waters. We should not allow that to happen.
India has welcomed steps taken by Nepal government to hold talks with the agitating groups to end the political crisis. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
What's the way forward? We're joined by former diplomat KV Rajan in studio this evening. Sir, thanks so much for speaking to us here. Like I pointed out, what is the way forward? Because Nepal, of course, thinking that India is trying to do this official trade blockade. But clearly you saw the Madhesi leaders, they're saying that if you do try to send in those trucks, we will stop them and, we won't be held responsible.
That's quite right, because what India has done is to express its concerns, its disappointment, its reservations, even its disapproval, not so much of the constitution which the Nepal Constituent Assembly had endorsed with such an overwhelming majority only a few days ago, but of the provisions, certain provisions in the constitution which would exclude a large percentage of Nepal's population, about 50% of Nepal's population, from enjoying the fruits of devolution of power and the benefits of federalism. So India has conveyed its concern, but it has not tried to dictate to Nepal as to what kind of constitution it should have. On the other hand, it has asked the Nepal government to sort out the problems with the Madeshis and the Tharus and other angry groups of people in Nepal who have started this agitation. This agitation is either on Nepalese soil or in the no man's land between Nepal and India.
Yes.
So India really has no control over them. India is not trying to instigate them or encourage them. But Nepal is obviously upset that India is one of the few countries, in fact perhaps the only country in the world, which has not welcomed the Nepalese constitution. It is expressing its sentiments quite frankly to Nepal as to what should be done, because it feels that this constitution in its present form cannot be sustainable, is not durable, is not in the interest of Nepal, is not in the interest of Madeshis, and is not in the interest of India-Nepal relations. So the way forward really is for Nepal to, on its own, look at the constitution, amend certain provisions as quickly as possible. And there are voices in Nepal which are already saying this, including some Maoist leaders, former Maoist leaders like Baburam Bhattarai, the former Prime Minister, who has resigned. There are many others. On the other hand, there are other leaders in Nepal who are saying that A, India cannot dictate to Nepal and Nepal should not succumb to that pressure from India to make changes in the constitution. And B, that the Madeshis and others really account for very few of the seats in the Constituent Assembly. So as Mr. Bandev Gautam, the Deputy Prime Minister, said yesterday in the Constituent Assembly, why should Nepal allow the tail to wag the dog? So the debate is still on, but the hope is that Nepal will see reason and take its own decisions in its own interest and diffuse the situation.
Yes, but by the looks of it, of course, talks are on between the government and the Madhesi community and also the other ethnic groups who are protesting. But by the looks of it, it does seem like, this is not a problem that's going to be sorted out within the next coming few days or so. In this kind of a situation, how much does India worry about the fact that, China is going to take advantage as far as, the trade situation is concerned?
Well, the Chinese will obviously try and take advantage of the situation, but there are limitations on what they can do, because geography, the compulsions of geography are against China trying to replace India. But the whole point is that Madheshi leaders belonging to other parties, Nepali Congress, the UML, etc., are themselves now trying to amend the constitution, introduce amendments to the constitution as soon as the Constituent Assembly meets on the 2nd October. So the hope is that there will be some concessions given, not SOPs, not tokenism, but it will enable the Madheshis to come on board and have substantive discussions which will lead to a solution.
All right, Mr. K.V. Rajan, thanks so much for joining us, helping us understand the situation better. We'll, of course, keep an eye out on developments there in Nepal, of course, in, vis-a-vis how the relations with India have been as well. Thank you so much for joining us. On to more news. And External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj held a packed schedule on day one of her US visit. She met the foreign ministers of the BRICS nations which backed reforms in the UN. And she also held trilateral talks with the US and Japan on the push for India's membership in APEC and discussed Prime Minister Modi's visit to the United Kingdom next month with the British Foreign Secretary. Here are all the details.
India's push for a place in UNSC got backing from the BRICS nations when External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj met her counterparts in New York. Despite differences over India's bid, China and Russia were among the nations to reaffirm the need for UN reform to make it more representative. They also discussed the agenda for the next BRICS summit to be held in India next year.
For us, it's very significant because India is going to be the next chair of BRICS, commencing February 2016. So it's an important meeting from that point of view for EM to hear the views of the other foreign ministers on how they see the BRICS evolving, what are the emergent needs, what more needs to be done.
India also pushed for an early membership in the APEC when Sushma held talks with her US and Japanese counterpart in a trilateral meet. Sushma raised the issue of maritime security and freedom of navigation amid the South China Sea crisis.
We see a strong connect between our discussions today and India's Act East policy. It is in this strategic context that India seeks an early membership of APEC. I would like to work with both of you for India's early membership of APEC.
The minister also met British Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond to discuss Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to UK in November. This will be Modi's first UK visit since coming to power last year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, fighting continues in the Afghanistan's Kunduz area as government forces battle Taliban insurgents into retaking the city. US strikes have halted a Taliban attempt to seize the airport, but the fighting comes as a major setback for President Ashraf Ghani, who is being blamed for mishandling the situation.
Gunfire and rocket attacks in Kunduz city, where US-backed Afghan forces and NATO special troops are mounting counter-strikes against the Taliban.
We strongly condemn the attacks in Kunduz and stand with the Afghan people in our commitment to Afghanistan's peace and security. We will continue to work closely with President Ghani, the Afghan government.
For Afghan President Ashraf Ghani, a victory over Taliban is crucial, especially when his government has just completed a year in office. Taliban had its biggest victory so far in 14 years of war when they seized the city on Tuesday. Amid growing calls for Ghani's resignation, fingers are being pointed at his mishandling of the battle. At the UN, the Afghan government blamed Pakistan for the Islamist insurgency.
ما میخوایم به تمام وطنداران اطمینان بدم که قندوز تحت مدیریت است. از این جهت ضرورته.
The presence of terrorist sanctuaries and support networks in Pakistan continue to cause trouble inside Afghanistan. The Haqqani network has been identified as the main culprit. It needs to be dismantled and has been our demand in the past.
Residents fleeing the city came under fire. Afghanistan's spy agency said the strikes had killed Taliban leaders, a claim denied by the Taliban. Many feel the siege of Kunduz give hopes to Taliban insurgents who were deeply divided over their leadership just a few months ago after the death of Mullah Muhammad Omar. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's take you through other international stories across the globe. Russia launched its first airstrikes in war-torn Syria today after President Vladimir Putin won parliamentary permission to use force abroad. Putin, however, said that the action was preemptive and that Moscow would be hunting down Islamic State militants before they target Russia. At least 6 people were killed today in a series of bombings at 10 locations in China. The blasts occurred on the eve of China's National Day holiday. It has left dozens more injured by the explosives placed in express delivery packages. Polish soldiers checked for landmines at the site where a Nazi train full of stolen gold is allegedly buried. The army is also deploying radiation and explosive experts outside the southwestern town of Wolfsbreich in Poland to investigate for potential hazards before excavating the site. On to sports now, and it was a forgettable night for the English teams in the Champions League as both Chelsea and Arsenal slumped to defeats on Tuesday night. However, defending champions Barcelona and Bayern Munich won their matches. Here's a report.
Arsenal's hope to reach knockout stage in the Champions League suffered a serious blow after they lost 2-3 to Olympiacos at home. The Gunners equalized twice after falling behind. But Alfred Finnbogason ensured Olympiacos their first win on English soil. Arsenal remain pointless in Group F after 2 successive defeats.
It leaves us in a bad position, but we are still in it. You know, we have to, of course, think that we can deal with Zagreb and with Olympiacos, even away from home. And we have to make a result in our next game against Bayern at home. But we are not out of it.
Chelsea's perform this season continued as they were beaten by Porto 2-1 in Group G. It was Porto's captain Maicon who scored the decisive goal to beat Chelsea.
I think it was a good performance with 2 ridiculous mistakes. And sometimes you make that kind of mistake and you are not punished. We were punished.
In a Group E match, defending champions Barcelona had to come from behind to beat Bayer Leverkusen. 2 goals in 2 minutes from Sergio Roberto and Luis Suarez have put them at the top of the group. In Group F, Bayern Munich thrashed Dynamo Zagreb's 5-0, ending the Croatian team's unbeaten run in 45 matches. Robert Lewandowski continued his sparkling form with another hat-trick in the game. He now has scored 10 goals in his last 3 outings. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And that's all we have for you on the news tonight. But coming up next is the big picture. Do stay with us.